you. Madam the President, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, the video clip that you have just seen has revived on me a very painful experience. It was me who first visited Ashraf and did the body count. I reported what I saw on the ground, and UNAMI did not show any interest in making the report public. I had to make the report public through irregular, unusual way of reporting, and I passed the report to Geneva that made it public. This is for history. Now, I would like to share some experience with you, very briefly, just to tell you how sometimes good intentions turn to bad ones and end up with people being sent to prisons. Indeed, the first idea of drafting and signing an MOU with the government of Iraq, it was mine. And we did it with the best of the intentions, is to give a status to the Ashrafis, to find a way out with dignity. Unfortunately, this idea was hijacked and used, indeed, to send people to a detention center. But I would like to share some ideas with you with this MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding signed with the government of Iraq. First, we drafted it so that we give protection to the Ashrafis. But Kobler's intervention in this process made it a process, an MOU for persecution, not protection. The first thing, for those who didn't see the MOU, there was no reference to humanitarian law. In fact, it was crossed from the draft. No reference whatsoever to humanitarian law. International humanitarian law is unacceptable for the government of Iraq. Worse, in the 7th clause of this MOU, in order for the government of Iraq to allow the UNHCR, the High Commissioner for Refugees, in order to allow them to engage in the process of giving a status to the residents of Ashraf, they had to insert a clause that said the government of Iraq will not be obliged by the outcome of this process. Meaning what? We are preparing a process to send people to prison. If the refugee status is not going to be recognized anyway by the government of Iraq, that means all the process we engaged was to send people to a detention center. Unfortunately, and probably most of you read the recent declaration of SRG, the Special Representative of Secretary General Kobler, in a German newspaper, where he referred to nearly 15 million he spent on this process. Let me take this opportunity while the honorable guests from the United States are here to remind that that 15 million was from the Department of State. Taxpayers' money was spent on this process. I think somebody here should be held accountable for evicting people from their peaceful life in Ashraf at the cost of 15 million given to Ambassador Kobler in order to evict these people and send them to a camp called Camp Liberty, by irony. Now, Also the MOU, which apparently Kobler is making it a tool to save life. I'm telling you from first-hand experience and first-hand knowledge that the presumption from the very beginning is these people are terrorists and they should be dealt with as such. So let's send them to a detention center while a sort of a triage through the UNHCR will be made. Some of them will eventually be granted their refugee status, others will be denied. And I did ask UNAMI what happens for those who will be denied the refugee status. The answer from Kobler is that the due process of law should take place, meaning they should be arrested and put to trial. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what is justice in Iraq today. There is no independence of the judiciary in Iraq. And if anybody is put to trial in Iraq, they will be condemned. Now, this MOU, which is supposed to protect, has made it a responsibility of the Ashrafis themselves to provide for themselves at their own cost. And I ask the question, how can you remove these people from their homes, take them to a detention center, lock them up, no freedom of movement, no contact with the outside world, no other activities, income-generating activities, and yet you expect them to provide for themselves? I was comforted with a tap on the shoulder that, don't worry, they will manage. Now, the first draft of the MOU was that if they are taken into a detention center, they should be looked after. You don't put people in prison and expect them to feed themselves. Somebody in prison, the government takes care of him or her. But in this situation, the MOU has sent people to a detention center and deprived them from any activity that is by nature inherently linked to the status of a refugee. But then again, if those who are familiar with the MOU, the whole process should be done within 3 months. The process they called verification. What does that mean? It's a police work to verify the identities of the Ashrafis. And they made sure that whoever declares himself by a name, a given name, whenever they leave Iraq, they will not be allowed to leave except under that name. It's a police work. Again, it was the commitment of the UNHCR to finish the process by June 2012. We are at the end of January 2013. The figures were given earlier about the process. Where are we with this process? And I will ask, do you think the UNHCR cannot do it within the time frame agreed at the beginning? They could. When they wanted to sort out the situation in a similar camp in Iraq called Mahmoud camp, they sorted it out in a few months. Everybody now in Mahmoud camp has a refugee card. They move around freely. They have the right to income-generating activities. And they also have documents to travel even abroad. That is not the case in Ashraf because they don't want them to be treated as refugees. And the MOU cannot be clearer than this. The MOU is denying the refugee status to everybody, even if the UNHCR will recognize it. Now, having said that, and Madam the President said that at the beginning that the Ashrafi needs to go back to Ashraf. It has no legal value whatsoever. The lawyers existing here will agree with me that a document like this signed between the government of Iraq and the United Nations in serious violation of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, Article 51 and 52 of the Vienna Convention. They make this document null and void because it's produced by coercion and the threat of use of force. Any document signed under the threat of use of force and coercion has no legal value. So now this document should not be referred to as a reference in dealing with Ashraf. The mandate of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is clear. The UNHCR should deal with the Ashrafis directly, grant them refugee status, and the international community should share the burden of receiving the Ashrafis. The reality is that the EU itself is spending $3 billion in Iraq. And I did ask the diplomatic representation in Baghdad, I said to them, you are spending that serious money, and can't you just put a word to al-Malik's government that what is happening is unacceptable? Unfortunately, the EU money is also spent towards sending the Ashrafis into a detention center. And somebody also here has to be held accountable. We cannot open a budget to the open budget to the United Nations. Let them spend the money in a diverted way and in a very unacceptable way. It's very important to show you, here are the documents, the lies of UNAMI. And it was done, the whole process was done under my leadership. But I distanced myself from it when it went wrong. What does this document say? This is again with the taxpayers' money, your money. UNAMI recruited an expert, shelter expert they call him, they brought him from UNHCR in Ethiopia in order to assess the situation in Camp Liberty, whether it's fit to accommodate 3,400 people or not. Here is the report. The report reads, UNHCR cannot certify and or verify that the above location, meaning Camp Liberty, meets humanitarian standards according to the many existing standards books of the UNHCR handbook, the SPAR, the WHO, all these books on standards, the experts certified they do not exist in Camp Liberty. And here is the second document. That's on the 31st of January, Kobler published. I read a little sentence where Kobler says, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and UNAMI Human Rights Office have now confirmed that the infrastructure and facilities at Camp Liberty are in accordance with the international humanitarian standards stipulated in the MOU. Can't we see exactly the flagrant lies in this UNAMI press statement. And then let me draw your attention where the UNAMI press release refers to international humanitarian standards stipulated in the MOU. At the beginning I told you the MOU does not stipulate any humanitarian standards. The government of Iraq refused to refer to international humanitarian law. So can you see how UNAMI and its leadership misleading the international community, misleading the whole world by playing on this kind of linguistic and this kind of words. So, first, there are two issues. The first one is the money spent on this process. We must question those who are spending this money, and the taxpayers need to know exactly how their money is spent in Iraq on this process. Second, I'm showing you the documents, and we have the right to ask the United Nations to inquire into this. What's this, the discrepancy between these two documents? Here they are. We do expect the United Nations to take the matter in hand. I thank you very much.
Dear Madame Rajavi, members of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, members of the French Committee for Democratic Iran, ladies and gentlemen, dear Iranian friends. Many nice words and wise words have already been said, and it is difficult to add. Iran as a country and Iranian people as a nation, among others, have a great and rich culture. The great history and the dignity of Iranian people are well known and admired. As other civilized nations, Iranian people have the full right to free self-determination, peace, freedom, rights and civil liberties, legitimate democratic government established by popular vote. Things which are so evident and natural for a majority of world nations are, unfortunately, not available for present-day Iranian people. If people are murdered and executed, there is no right to life. If people are tortured, inhumanly treated, corporally punished and mutilated, if they are prosecuted for their religion and convictions, freedom of expression, there is no freedom, no equality, no civil society, no democracy. No nation merits such conditions and treatment. These medieval violations of human rights, accompanied with nuclear threats to the outside world, must not continue. Those who are responsible must be brought to justice. We remember that, and we understand you, and we will give you all our sympathy and support. You have a well-established civil resistance movement, and there is no deadlock. Our duty is to support this legitimate resistance movement as a democratic alternative to existing regime not only for the benefit of the Iranian people, but also for the peace and security of the world. There is always hope if you keep strong in mind, peaceful and rational in actions. You have surpassed obstacles the politics has placed before you in the international and internal arenas. Sooner or later, you will get back your Iran, free and democratic, respected by others and enjoyed by its own people. History shows that dictatorships will never last endlessly. I wish you every success in your great struggle. Thank you.
Good evening all to you. It's a really honor to stand here, and first of all maybe I'd like to give best wishes from Estonian parliamentarians who couldn't attend in this event, and best wishes to all to you and to Mrs. Maryam Rajavi as well. And maybe I take the risk to say that Estonians really understand what Iranian people are living through nowadays. And it's very simple. Why? Because we lived under Soviet occupation 5 decades, more than 50 years. Under Soviet-Russian occupation, Russia, which is now ally of Mullah's regime in Iran. So, with killings, executions, deportation, and huge pressure from the regime. And I think that every people, every single person of free world must even try to understand the difficulty of fighting against dictatorship, against criminal regime. And I think everyone must try to support these kind of fightings. And I think everyone in here agrees that Iranian regime, what is it today, is a great danger to the whole world. We must remember it. If every day people are executed, cynically killed, that's not normal. You know, dictatorships and dictators are like cancer, or we can't live peacefully in the world when regime like Mullah regime, Iran, continues its existing. It must be stopped. But, well, it really seems so clear, and on the one hand it is clear, but on the other hand, is it? Don't you think that politicians of Western world, free world, like to talk very much? We talk and talk, and we keep on talking how we adore and love our freedom and how elementary is freedom. Okay, if it is so, then why are the measures against dictatorship so weak, useless, or does exist at all? A couple of months ago, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi visited Estonia, and we had a conference of Iran resistance in Estonia. Madam Rajavi had an opportunity to meet with several Estonian politicians, parliament members, minister, political parties, and so on. And I think this is giving a clear message to the Western world. Please don't be shy to meet with Iran resistance, to listen Iran resistance, and to carry on Iran resistance message about elementary freedom that we used to enjoy in our countries. Dear colleagues from Western side of the world, from free side of the world, dear Western politicians, please don't feel shy, not only to talk loudly about freedom, but to act for freedom. Please don't feel shy to press dictatorship. Please don't feel shy to support free Iran. Because if we love our freedom, we love your freedom. And if we can't support your freedom, we don't support our freedom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وكل من أمر بالقسط إلى يوم الدين. ثم أما بعد، تحية طيبة مباركة من مصر أرض الحضارة إلى كل بلدان العالم، وخاصة البلدان المشاركة في هذا المؤتمر. وتحية من الوفد المصري النائب أيمن طه والنائب أشرف الشبراوي ومحدثكم النائب عاطف مخاليف، للسيدة الزعيمة مريم رجوي وكل أفراد منظمة مجاهدي خلق. الانتصار السياسي لا يأتي من فراغ، لكن لابد من دفع الثمن، والثمن الغالي من الوقت والجهد والفكر والمال حتى يصل إلى الدم. هكذا تكون المكاسب السياسية في عصرنا هذا. اليوم يواجه العالمين الإسلامي والعربي وضعا خاصا، حيث انتفضت الشعوب ضد الديكتاتورية والفساد، وإنهم متعطشون للديمقراطية والعدالة التي حرموا منها، وعدم العودة إلى الرجعية والتطرف الديني والأنظمة الأنوية. إننا بحاجة إلى فهم وإدراك ديمقراطي متسامح عن الإسلام الحقيقي والأصيل الذي عرفناه عن نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. واليوم نحتفل بذكرى الثورة الإيرانية التي أطاحت بنظام شاه إيران وأتت بنظام خامنئي وهو أكثر قسوة من 1000 شاه. الفكر المتأسلم مرتدي أو مرتدي قناع النبيل الذي علقت في عصره المشانق في الميادين في طهران، علقت المشانق لطالب الحرية والديمقراطية من الشعب الإيراني، وكان للزعيم مسعود رجوي والزعيمة مريم رجوي دورا هاما في رفع هذا القناع من على وجه خامنئي. الإخوة والأخوات، إن ما يحدث من انتهاكات قضائية ضد شعب إيران من عقوبات قطع اليد وعقوبات الإعدام، الإخوة والأخوات، إن ما يحدث من انتهاكات قضائية ضد شعب إيران من عقوبات قطع اليد والإعدام بدون أسباب حقيقية هي جريمة كاملة الأوصاف ضد الإنسانية، لا يمكن السكوت عنها ولا يمكن السكوت عليها. والأهم معتقل ليبرتي، أو ما يسميه بعض ما تحدثوا قبل سجن ليبرتي، الذي طالبنا من الأمم المتحدة أن يكون مخيما للاجئين تحت إشرافها، والتي طالبنا بأن تتسع هذه المساحة التي لا تزيد عن نصف كيلومتر مربع في نصف كيلومتر مربع وتأوي 3200 إنسان. اليوم نرفع سقف المطالبة من الدول العربية والأمم المتحدة، نطالبهم بالضغط على المالكي وحكومته بعودة سكان ليبرتي إلى مخيم أشرف. لابد للدول العربية أن تقوم بدور شجاع ضد حكومة نور المالكي التي تنتهك حرمات الإنسان في مخيم ليبرتي ونقلهم إلى مخيم أشرف ثانيا، مخيم أشرف الذي بذل الجهد والأموال من أجل تأسيسه ليكون مأوى لهم، ليس ليكون مغرما أو مغنما لحكومة الملك الظالمة. إننا في مصر وكدولة من دول الشرق الأوسط يهمنا في المقام الأول بالنسبة لدول الشرق الأوسط وبخاصة دول الجوار أن تسود الديمقراطية الحقيقية التي عرفناها والتي نزيد في معرفتها عندما نلتقي بالإخوة في مجاهدي خلق، الإخوة الذين كان شعارهم وعلى رأسهم السيدة مريم رجوي أنه لا يأس ولا بد للدول الكبرى التي تسعى لتحقيق مطامع أن تغير أهدافها تجاه دول الشرق الأوسط، وأن تعمل على إبقاء وعلى إرساء دول الديمقراطية الحديثة. عذرا للإطالة، وأشكركم وأشكر دولة فرنسا حكومة وشعبا لرحابتها لاستضافة عشاق الحرية، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.